Welcome to Bloodbath and Beyond. Today we review Steve, the Death Collector.
Written by Eamon Hardiman, directed by Missy Dawn, starring Brandy Mason, Stephen Hensley, and Eamon Hardiman. Steve, the Death Collector is about Steve, the Debt Collector, who goes after clients who don't pay and kills them with his trusty switchblade. What do we like about this film, guys?
I liked the copious amounts of gratuitous nudity and lesbian scenes. He provided us with tons of full frontal nudity, tons of boobs. Eamon knows his crowd.
I really enjoyed Eamon Hardiman as Steve the Death Collector in this film. The look, the attitude, just the way he presented the character and delivered his lines and how he killed people. It was entertaining.
Eamon Hardiman is the director of the Pork Chop series, and his girlfriend, Missy Dawn, directed this movie, and Pig Girl. Oh, back to the lesbian scenes. I really liked that Missy Dawn was in a lesbian scene.
That's true. I didn't see that coming.
Big fan of that.
Being familiar with Eamon's earlier work in the Pork Chop series, the practical effects and the kills were exactly what I was expecting. They were really cheesy, but they still hit home with that awesome look and hilarious effect.
So this movie had a $2,000 budget, and it was filmed over a couple weekends, and it's quite the accomplishment, and we always have to commend when people are able to actually pull together a full movie with the limited resources. So it's always good to see that people are just going out there and actually making the movies. So we have to commend them for actually putting forth the effort for doing that. What didn't we like about this movie, guys?
I think the biggest problem with this movie is the fact that almost every scene drags on for a really long time. That could have been fixed up in the editing room, I think, but I'm not sure that it would have solved the problem.
No.
Because then we would have been left with a 20-minute movie.
Which is okay.
Yeah, right. It wouldn't have been a feature, but it would have been a faster-paced, more enjoyable film.
A lot of the scenes were kept on long because we were waiting for the song to finish.
Yeah. My main complaint was when they started with that witchcraft stuff. That just came out of nowhere, went on forever. It was really out of place. And I get it, maybe you wanted to do a lesbian scene.
Everything
it was awkward, it was weird, it wasn't well done, it didn't enhance anything, so it just didn't need to be in there.
Right, which happened like halfway through the movie and was like a large part of the movie. If we didn't have the witchcraft lesbian scene, I don't know what we'd have left.
He didn't develop anything interesting when it came to murdering people other than just straight up murdering them. And then you have a backstory about people who were getting murdered, but it was just way off base.
I didn't really care about many of the characters, so that kind of leads to all of this. The characters were not that enjoyable, and in fact, you hated a lot of them, which is generally great when you're doing a slasher because you're like, yeah, please fucking kill that guy. Well, Steve eventually did kill these people. They weren't like gratifying kills. There were one or two like decent kills in the movie, but for a movie that you're watching because you're expecting Steve to just go and collect death the whole time, the kills weren't that great.
Though I really liked Steve the Death Collector as a character, I felt as a whole, his character wasn't well developed, like a lot of the characters in this film. But when you have him as your antagonist / protagonist, it was confusing to figure out what his intents were other than killing for debt. The backstory left way too many open-ended questions, and the people he chose to kill, it just seemed like a random draw. On paper, it sounds like a really cool character and a really cool story. It's just, we didn't get that properly developed.
I do want to touch on the cinematography because it wasn't very good. Now, this was shot by Scott Gregg, who shot Pig Girl, and he's a friend of ours on Facebook and Twitter and all that. And it sucks to say, but I didn't love this cinematography. There's way too many out of focus shots, and I don't know if that's because of the rush time that they didn't have time to reshoot a lot of the scenes. In general, everything was kind of shaky.
It was too amateur.
If the camera's shaky or slanted or out of focus, we're not getting that same impact, especially at the end there when we're seeing like Steve make his final decision. We have a shot on for like 4 minutes completely out of focus, and then it cuts to a really nice shot in focus and then back to the same shot out of focus. It's just like night and day, and you can't get involved in it when you're looking at two different films almost.
It's time for our final thoughts and ratings.
I really like the idea of this character, and I hope that Eamon Hardiman continues it and grows the character. But in this film, I felt he fell flat with it. There was so much potential that could have been reached, but we just didn't see it. There was a subtle humor in there that we're used to, and it was enjoyable at the end of the movie. The first part of the movie was a little slow in its pacing, and it's hard to get to that point when you're not engaged and want to be involved in it. So that being said, I'm going to give this film 2 Eamon Hardiman vinegar strokes out of 5.
As a fan of Eamon Hardiman's work, and a contributor to his Indiegogo campaign for Steve the Death Collector, I felt that this was probably the weakest film from Razor Sharp Studios. Now that we've seen 4 of them before this, it didn't have the same comedy, it didn't have the same feel, and I didn't feel the kills were where they needed to be for a movie all about killing. From Porkchop 1 through 3, we had fantastic, brutal, awesome practical effects. In this one, they were lacking. It was nice to see a few familiar faces, but again, the story was way too dull and slow, and just there was way too many drawn out scenes for me to give this a higher rating. So unfortunately, I have to give this 1 cruising down the hall in my work chair out of 5.
I felt this movie really failed on its execution. It had an okay concept to begin with, and it could have surprised us by introducing a cool new character and a cool new idea, but with the crappy cinematography and audio, it just felt like a rush job. It just felt so unfinished. So I'm going to give it 1 Slinky out of 5.
As always, thank you for watching. Like this video and comment below with your favorite workplace killer. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel to stay updated with our reactions, reviews, and games of What Would You Do.